Okay, well, people are going to start asking questions when I show my latest project, which is a generator running on water. So before the questions start, I'm going to answer them with this little setup here. And all we have here is two tubes, and they are double tubes. We have an inner and an outer tube, same this side, inner and an outer tube. That is to gain capacitance between the two tubes. The two outer tubes are not hooked up or hardwired, but only connected via the resistance in the water. This bottom ring around this tube goes to one side of our light bulb, and inside the inner tube there's another small tube with that black wire hooked to it that goes to the other side of the light bulb. Okay, fresh tap water, no electrolyte in the tank, and as you can see the gap between the two cells is very large. So the idea behind this is to be able to get a decent amount of gas out of fresh water without any electrolyte. I don't want to be putting any chemicals whatsoever in the water. If I want to fill up my generator, I want to fill it straight up from the tap. Okay, for our generator we're using an old smart drive washing machine, but of course on my generator that I have built I am using a three-phase, or I'm using a truck alternator. Most alternators are three-phase. Simply rectified and regulated to charge a battery, which is exactly what we've done here. We have our common and our three phases with a diode on each phase, and this is how it is inside an alternator for a vehicle. We are only using one phase of this three-phase alternator, and the other two will be left to charge the battery for the vehicle when it comes to putting the setup into a vehicle. So from our positive side of the single phase we are going across to this cell here. The common of the three-phase alternator comes out and it goes through the primary side of this microwave oven transformer. We come out of that and we're going to this cell over here. So like I said, this ring on the bottom and the tube inside the inner tube on this cell is purely to show you visually when the high voltage side kicks in. Alright, the secondary side of the circuit, which at the moment is disconnected because we're going to run it up without it connected to show you what we get. The secondary side is just a series circuit. We are coming out of the high voltage side of the MOT, going into this 1.1 UF cap from a microwave oven. We come out of the cap into the spark plug, and of course the ground of the spark plug is hooked to the ground of the transformer, which is a bit loose. So I may just open that up while we are here. If I can get the screwdriver. Right. Okay, so what happens is when an arc takes place across our spark gap, we're basically shorting out the secondary side of this transformer, which in turn induces a high voltage in the primary side, which is sent to the cell. First up, we'll start her up without the secondary circuit hooked up, or our coil shorting circuit, and we'll see what we get. So this has just been driven by an electric motor, and of course it is a soft start, so it takes a while to build up. I'm going to wind her up flat out, which is 60, and now we have to wait until it gets up to speed. And remember, we don't have our coil shorting circuit hooked up at the moment. It's disconnected, and it is fresh water. We have a fairly large gap between cells. We're only putting about 28 volts across it from the generator, and as you can see, very little gas production. And that's it, that's flat out, and that's all we get. simply is no good to us at all. So what we're going to do now is we're going to hook our secondary up, create the short across that, and see what happens when we induce that high voltage into the cell. So let's give her a go and see what happens. Now you will hear when the spark gap, or when the arc starts to take place across the spark gap and our coil shorting circuit kicks in. And you will also see it via the light bulb. It is a 240 volt bulb, LED, 5 watts, 240 volts. There we go. And believe it or not, the light bulb adds absolutely no load to the system. So like I said, fresh water and quite a bit of gas for very little power. So this setup works extremely well. So we can now use fresh water, and we can now drive the unit off a car alternator from one of the phases, and we can leave the other two phases for power to do whatever we want to do with it. So that's the basic circuit. As basic as I can make it, that will be running my generator. And when I say it runs on water, we are still using a 20% fuel mix. So it's 20% fuel and 80% water. So we've basically increased the run time of a certain amount of fuel by 500%, driving the same load, which you will see in the up and coming month. So this is basically how it's set up. A few little better parts, you might say. I don't use spark plugs for the spark gap. I have an adjustable one in there, so I can adjust the frequency to get it spot on to suit the cell, which is a dry cell that Daryl sent me over from America. I'm sure many of you have seen. Works extremely well with this setup. Alright, that's it from me for today. So thanks for watching, guys, and keep an eye out for up and coming videos.